Good afternoon, Ann.
Hello.
You had mentioned before lunch that you received a citation for underage consumption from a Raleigh police officer. Is that right?
That's correct.
And when Sergeant Hoolan, and that was on, was it June 28th or June 29th when you got that ticket?
I'm not really sure on the date, but it was late at night, so.
And that officer handed you that at the, it was in front of the Matthews residence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was it a pink ticket, pink citation, or do you recall? Or was it a
I
white
honestly don't really remember.
But you weren't arrested?
No, I wasn't. I just waited for they just called my parents and waited for them to pick me up.
And at some point after that, a couple days later, Sergeant Hoolan came to talk to you about the case for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned before that you left some things out and then he came to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's correct.
On both those occasions, did Sergeant Hoolan say to you, I'm not here to talk to you about your underage drinking?
He did say it. He said that this was just an investigation case. It had nothing to do with what was happening to me is separate.
So he wanted to find out why JT had left the house, right?
Yes.
Was that a big focus?
That was his primary focus.
Okay. And so what ended up happening with your drinking ticket?
We got a lawyer, and I did community service, did an alcohol class, and it was dismissed. But I mean, I had to do stuff for it.
Were you happy to have it dismissed?
Well, I mean, it's nice not to have it on my record, so.
Anna, the whole experience that night and talking to Sergeant Hoolan and going through the whole process of the investigation, has that been a traumatic experience for you?
Yes.
As a result, have you stopped drinking?
Objection.
Sustained.
That's all the questions I have.
Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Anna, good afternoon. You testified earlier that you were drinking alcohol throughout the entire wedding reception. Is that right, ma'am?
Correct.
Do you know approximately what time it was when you ended up down in the basement, Anna?
Probably around 10-ish.
Okay. Other than when you went down in the basement after you become intoxicated, were you going up and down into that basement throughout the night?
I packed my stuff to stay there. I went up to my car at one point to bring it back and put it down in the basement. That was the only other time I went down there.
So
it was just that just dropping my stuff and then to stay down there.
So at any time, Anna, were you taking these wine glasses, alcohol down there to drink, to try and hide it from the Matthews in the basement? All the drinking you did was out
in the public, in the open. Mm-hmm.
In the open in front of all the other adults there.
Yes.
How about you said you went upstairs one time with Thomas to get the graduation gift?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go upstairs any other times except for that?
Just that one time.
Just that one time. You mentioned that Sergeant Hoolan asked you about trying to determine why JT left that night. Anna, do you know why JT left that night?
I had no idea. Not a clue.
Kind of to follow up with what Mr. Miles asked you there, JT was your friend, is that correct?
He was.
Has his death been a traumatic experience for you?
Extremely.
And are you struggling with that even today?
Yeah, I guess so. It's definitely still, I mean, I've gotten better about it, but it's never something I'll overcome.
Have you talked with the Matthews about this case since the night of June 28th?
Objection.
Overruled.
Not really. The only time I ever saw them was at like a prayer ritual or the funeral, and it was more of a I'm so sorry this happened, and kind of that we were all kind of put in that situation and we're there that day.
Did they making you talk to you about you drinking at the wedding at all?
No, they were just more concerned for all of us grieving. They weren't concerned about themselves at that point.
You mentioned earlier on that Thomas Matthews was giving you the flask for your graduation gift. Did he ever give you that?
He did.
When was that?
A little bit afterwards, after he passed, after the night had passed, me and my friend were together, and he said he had a present for her as well, and we just went over really fast.
You also mentioned that at one point in the night, kind of to follow along with that Toddy got mad.
Or no, I was mad at him. It was just...
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I was just angry at the situation I was put in. That ambulance was calling me, but I mean, I didn't really have the right to. It wasn't my call, and obviously I was fairly impaired. I'm more thankful that they took the initiative to make sure I was okay. But I was just initially mad, just because I had no idea what had happened.
But you don't know who called 911, is that right?
I didn't know who called. I thought it might have been Thomas, and I think that's why I was first mad, and then figured out everything that happened afterwards. And then kind of got over my anger, and I knew it was in my best interest that the EMS was called.
And did you understand there was a kind of a bigger issue going on?
And then once I heard something about JT wasn't okay, that Thomas texted me, that was what I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about anything that happened to me.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Anna. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Recross examination.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
You may step down. Please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this time the state will call Natalie Freeman to the stand.
Ma'am, if you would, please place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Natalie, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi,
Will you please state your full name for the record?
Natalie Freeman,
And Natalie, can you please state your date of birth for us?
12/20/96,
And how old are you currently, Ms. Freeman?
18,
And back on June 28th of 2014, how old were you at that time?
17.
Natalie, can you tell the members of the jury how you know, and we'll just kind of go through the parties involved here. We'll start with JT Taylor. How did you know him?
I used to go to Ravenscroft, and I was in 6th grade when he was in 7th grade, I think, when he came. And it's a small school, so like you kind of know people's names before you know them personally. So I didn't know him personally until the night of the wedding.
So you and JT weren't best friends or anything like that?
I never met him before.
All right. And how about Josh McCoy? Did you know him?
I mean, kind of the same thing where Ravenscroft was small, so you know like people at Ravenscroft, but I wasn't friends with him.
Anna Ergus, she just testified before you. How'd you know her?
The first time I met her was at tennis camp a couple years before, and then I'd stayed sort of in touch with her through mutual friends after I left Ravenscroft, and she went to Ravenscroft, and that like we were sort of friends before the wedding.
And how about Thomas Matthews?
I knew him from Ravenscroft, and I had hung out with him a couple times throughout high school, but never, like we weren't close friends.
On June 28th, 2014, did you get invited to a wedding?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
Who invited you? Who invited you to the wedding?
Thomas.
Was that unusual for him to invite you to the wedding there?
It was unexpected, but it wasn't like unusual, I guess.
And you said, well, you were at a different school than the other three.
Mm-hmm.
And, where were you at that time? I'm sorry.
Cardinal Gibbons.
And have you graduated from Cardinal since then?
Yes, sir.
And or Gibbons since then? And what are your plans in the future?
I'm going to Chapel Hill in the fall.
When do you start there? This fall?
Yeah, in August.
Are you doing anything this summer in terms of working, or
I work a little.
what type of work do you do?
I work at a clothing store in Cameron Village.
All right, Natalie, I want to turn your attention to that wedding on June 28th of 2014. Whose house was that wedding held at?
The Matthews.
And do you know Dr. Charles Matthews and Mrs. Kimberly Matthews?
No, sir.
Had you ever met them before, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge. I'm sure I'd run into them at, like, things at Ravenscroft, but I don't think I ever had, like, a conversation with them before the wedding.
Had you ever been over to their house before?
One time I went over with one of my friends. It was just to catch up with Thomas. I hadn't seen him in a while, and catch up with one of my other friends from Ravenscroft.
And when was that you went over to their house, Natalie, if you recall?
It must have been my junior year. So, and it was during, like, the fall. I think it was, like, September or October. I guess that'd be, like, 2013.
2013?
Yeah.
And were the Matthews parents home when you went over to the house?
I think they were home. They weren't out of town. But it was after a football game. Either they were, like, already sleeping, or they were upstairs, or I didn't, like, have a personal, like, conversation with them.
So you didn't have any interaction with them there that night, or see them?
No, sir.
When you went over to Thomas's house, what type of event was it after the football game?
It was just to catch up with people. I hadn't seen them in a while, and just stop by, have a conversation, say, like, how have you been? And I lived close by, so it wasn't out of the way. It was more like on the way back.
Was there any drinking going on that night when you went?
Not with me and my friend. No, I think that there might have been, like, empty cans on the table, but we weren't, like, actively drinking that night.
Did you see others there actively drinking?
Not that I remember, no.
And when you say there were cans on the table, where were you in the house when you saw the cans on the table?
We were in the basement, just in there, small, like, there's, like, a sofa and a table, kind of when you go down the stairs, if I remember, and, like, they were down there, Thomas and his friend.
What type of cans now?
Beer cans.
Let's turn your attention specifically to June 28th of 2014, and you said you got an invite to the wedding. Who invited you?
Thomas.
And about what time was it that he invited you now?
Probably about 2 or 3 that afternoon.
And how did he invite you?
He texted me. I was at work, and he said, "What are you doing later? My sister's getting married at my house."
Did you know his sister?
No, I had never met them.
What was your response to getting this invitation to the wedding?
I was excited. I'd never been to a wedding before, so I wanted to go.
Was there any conversation between you and Thomas about if you were going to be drinking at the wedding?
There was, yes, sir.
What about that?
He said that we were going to drink before the wedding. Like, we weren't just going to drink at the wedding, we were going to drink before it too, like when I got there.
And let me ask you about that, Nellie. What you said before and during the wedding, was there conversation about, hey, we'll do this before the wedding and then drink at the wedding? What?
I think he used the word pregame, but he didn't, like, it wasn't like specifics like we're going to go to the APC store or anything like that. But we did talk about drinking before the wedding, and he kind of made a joke, like my sister said I could invite guests to make it more fun.
Sustained.
Oh, sorry.
So you had a conversation about drinking.
Yes, sir.
And what was your thought on that, Natalie, in terms of drinking at this wedding?
I didn't really think much of it. Like, what? I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Well, I'll ask you this way. Did you know if there were going to be adults at the wedding?
I did. I knew there were going to be adults.
And then you're expecting pregame before the wedding.
Yes, sir.
Before the wedding, and then expecting to drink at the wedding.
Yes, sir.
What was your thoughts on that? Were you uncomfortable with that? What did you think was going to happen?
I guess I thought it was just kind of going to be, like, up to each person, like, how much they wanted to drink, but there was going to be stuff for us to drink if we wanted to that night. to make it more fun, I guess. Like if Thomas, he was like, we're gonna drink or something like that, and we all agreed that we were going to.
You said we all agreed that we were going to. At some point, did you meet up with the other kids there at the wedding?
When I came to the house and parked out front.
About what time did you get to the wedding now?
Like 6:45.
Who was there when you arrived?
Anna was walking up, or she was already at the front of the house with JT and Thomas, and they were at the front of the house. I think the front door was open, and Mrs. Matthews was there, like that area.
Did you have any conversation with Mrs. Matthews when you first arrived?
I don't remember specifics, but I remember that either she did or someone else made these like homemade jams and mason jars. It was kind of like the gift, and so we were talking to her about it and thanking her, and I think we took some and like put them in my purse and thanked her, and that was kind of the only interaction I like specifically remember.
When you first arrived there and had this interaction with Mrs. Matthews, was there any conversation about you drinking there at the wedding?
No, sir.
At any point, and was there any talk about if you drank to be responsible, give keys, anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Just at that point, she knew you were there, though.
Yes, sir.
And did you have any conversation with her about whether or not you want to spend the night or what was going to happen the rest of the night?
No, sir. The only person I talked to about spending the night was Anna, because she asked, like, when I got to the house, pretty much immediately, she asked, are you spending the night? I think I am. Like, what are your plans? And then I decided, I was like, yeah, I'll spend the night.
And why did you think you should spend the night?
Because if there was going to be drinking, I figured I either had to call my parents or spend the night.
And where, had you told your parents you were going to this wedding?
Yes, sir. I told both my parents, yeah.
After you had this initial conversation with Mrs. Matthews, what happened then?
We got in Thomas's car, which was parked across the street, and then Thomas drove JT, Anna, and me to the ABC store in Cameron Village.
And how did you get there? How did you get there in terms of you getting into the car? Was there some discussion beforehand or there at the house about, hey, let's go to the ABC store?
I'm not sure. I do know that it was pretty much as soon as I got there, though, because they were already like about to leave. So I got there right before they left, and I came along with them.
And did you know where you were going at that time?
Yes, sir.
So y'all had talked at some point right away. You said there'd been a conversation about we're going to the ABC store.
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us what happens there going to the ABC store.
We pulled up, and Thomas said something about he was dressed in a tux, and he was like, I don't think that they'll card me. I'm going to go in. And he asked what we wanted. We discussed what we wanted to get, and then he went in and bought the Jack Daniels, and he walked out, and it was in a brown paper bag, and he said they didn't card me. Like, I got lucky, and we drove away.
Did you or JT or Anna pitch in any money on this Jack Daniels? Do you remember?
I know Anna and I didn't. I don't think JT did either. If he did, I didn't see it. But
where'd you go once you obtained the Jack Daniels?
We drove back to the Matthews neighborhood, and we parked on the street and went to Robert Vaughn's house.
Why Robert Vaughn's house?
Because Thomas, like Anna said, Thomas was taking care of their plants, and he was friends with Robert, and he knew that they were out of town, so we just stayed in their backyard on chairs, like kind of in a circle, and we knew we could drink the bottle without any parents knowing.
So Robert Vaughn's house, I think it's been described as next door, but can you see the Matthews backyard or front yard from there?
No.
And at some point, does Josh arrive?
Yes, that was where he came to the house.
Tell the members of the jury what happened there in Robert Vaughn's backyard.
We passed the bottle around. It wasn't like even. It wasn't like one person took a sip, passed it to the next person. It was kind of, we were just passing it around, and I lost track of who drank the most, but we all finished the bottle. I think it took us the wedding started at 7:30, so we had to be probably like in the seats by 7:25, a little bit before, and so we drank the bottle pretty quickly, like 15, 20 minutes to finish the bottle.
Do you recall if Josh had any of the Jack Daniels bottle?
I think he took a sip to taste it, but he did not take like a gulp like we were, and he didn't have any more.
So Natalie, you couldn't tell. I mean, this bottle was pretty evenly distributed between the four of you.
It wasn't evenly distributed. It was, I don't think Anna and I had as much, but also like I don't think we were taking as big sips, so like we might have had the bottle more, so like I couldn't really tell how big like the sips everyone was taking. Yeah.
And I believe you said the whole bottle was consumed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall what happened to the bottle?
Yeah, we put it in my purse because I think I was the only one who had something to carry it in, and then we dropped it off at my car sometime in the evening. I think it was before we went into the wedding, and then I ended up giving the bottle to a lawyer, a policeman. I don't remember who it was. Yeah.
Natalie, other than this Jack Daniels, what the alcohol we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, but other than the alcohol, was there any other marijuana, pills, drugs consumed there that you're aware of that night?
No, sir.
All right, once you finished the bottle, where you said you took it to your car, and at that point, did you proceed on to the ceremony?
Yes, sir.
Anything out of the ordinary that you noticed during the ceremony itself?
No, sir.
Y'all just drank this fifth and passed it around. At that point, could you tell if you or JT or Thomas or Anna, if they were becoming drunk, impaired?
Everyone seemed like they were in a good mood, happy, laughing.
Had the alcohol hit you yet, Natalie?
We drank it so fast that I don't think it had really hit me yet. If anything, it was like a little buzz, but like I still remember everything clearly, and like our conversation, and like it wasn't blurry yet.
After the ceremony, where did y'all go?
We went to the front yard for the first reception.
Describe what happened there.
There was a line going up to the bar where there were two bartenders. They were like uncorking wine, and they were pouring it into glasses, and we waited in line, and when we got to the front, they asked if you wanted red or white, and then you either took what was already poured, or since they were constantly uncorking the wine to like fill up the table, they would just hand you the one that they had just poured.
So if I understand you correctly, and kind of use my cup as an example, there were glasses of wine already pre-poured on a table.
Mm-hmm, because they were like preparing the bar.
I'm sorry. And at this point, were there a lot of people in line waiting for the wine glasses?
It was pretty much everyone from the wedding, so everyone started filling up the front yard and like that brick patio. I can't remember how many people were really in line, but everyone was kind of in that area.
Do you recall, Natalie, how many wine glasses would have been on the table at any one time?
I don't remember. Sorry.
And when you saw the bartenders or servers pouring the glasses of wine, you said sometimes they would hand it to other people, but not all the time?
I can't really remember how they handed it, but I do know that they were constantly like filling up the glasses, and there was some to choose from already on the table. It wasn't like you went up to them, they poured you a glass and handed you that glass, and that was the only glass on the table. So I can't remember if like us five took glasses from the table or if they handed us glasses. It was kind of a mix.
And that was going to be my next question. Do you know how you yourself got a glass of wine there?
No, sir.
And how about JT and Anna and Thomas know how they got theirs?
I don't remember.
How many, and skip ahead just a little bit, Natalie, how many glasses of wine would you say you had there on the front porch cocktail hour?
I remember I only had one because I still had the jam in my purse, so my purse was really heavy and I wanted to go to my car to empty it, and JT said, he was like, oh, I can come, and as we were walking to my car, we left our wine glasses on the table, and I'd only had one, and we ran into a teacher and we talked to him for a pretty long time, and so it like started to get darker, and we got rid of all the stuff from my purse, and by the time we were walking up, I'm pretty sure they'd already closed down the bar and they were moving it to the backyard.
Do you remember how many glasses of wine JT had there at the front?
I don't remember, but I remember that there were glasses on the table that were still full when we came back, and I think that he started drinking one of those, but I don't remember if he personally went up and got another glass.
During this cocktail hour, Natalie, did you see Dr. Matthews and Mrs. Matthews in the front area?
I did not.
Did you have any interaction with them during that time?
I didn't have any other interaction in the front yard or the backyard after I saw them at the beginning of the night, and then I saw Mrs. Matthews at the end of the night. But in between, I didn't see them.
The teacher that you said you and JT talked with outside in the front yard, who was that?
Mr. R., Mr. Ringenbach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have Mrs. Beinecke as a teacher as well, or do you know her?
I don't know her.
That's right, you went to Gibbons, so
Yes, sir.
didn't have her. Conversation with Mr. R, as you said, Reichenbach. What type of conversation was that?
It was all about like what we were gonna do in the next 4 years. So JT was talking about USC and what he was gonna do there and what he wanted to major in, and just kind of his plans for the future. And he was very happy, and it was a very happy conversation, just about where we wanted to go to school and what we wanted to major in, and kind of how Ravenscroft had prepared us very well for that.
This at that point, the whole night was JT in a pretty happy mood.
He was incredibly happy from everything I remember. He was talking to everyone, like talking about how good the food was. Just he was very happy. That's all I remember really about him.
But at some point, Natalie, y'all moved to the back part of to the back area for the reception.
Yes, sir.
And when you went back there, Natalie, I asked you earlier about how people were acting, impaired, drunk. When you started to move back to the back, could you tell a difference in yourself and also your friends?
I couldn't really tell a difference in my friends, but that was the first time that like it really hit me, and I still felt well, but I like knew that I had like definitely reached a pretty impaired level.
And how about the other ones, your other friends? You didn't form an opinion as to their impairment yet?
I didn't think like, oh, this person is more drunk than the rest, or I can tell that this person has had too much to drink. I didn't notice anything like that.
But what happened in the backyard, in that part of the reception? Where did you go?
There was another standing table we went to that was close to the bar because they had moved all the chairs from the ceremony away and turned them into tables and like a dance floor with like lights, and we didn't want to sit at one of those big sitting tables. We thought that was for more like family and close friends of the bride and groom and family, and so we chose one of the standing tables closest to the bar that they had set up.
That table that you chose, Nellie, in terms of getting to the bar, going inside to use restroom and whatnot, was it in a pretty high trafficked area?
It was. I remember talking to some people in the kitchen and going back out to the standing table. It was pretty close to it was like one of the closest tables to inside the house because it was like under a roof area.
And you get back to the back, and how long do you and your friends stay at that table, Natalie, or is that kind of your home base for the rest of the night?
That was the last time I saw all of them except Thomas.
So how long would you say you stayed there at that table?
I don't remember. Yeah.
A few minutes, hours?
I remember that I left the table after probably the first dance or the second dance, because I remember the music came on and Thomas and JT said, they're like, oh, let's all dance when we can, like once it's done being family, and everyone kind of agreed, but then I felt sick and I left after probably the first or second song.
Where did you go at this point now?
I went down to the basement.
Why did you go down to the basement?
I knew that it was away from parents and family, and I didn't want to embarrass myself or run into anyone.
Natalie, before you went down in the basement, did you have any wine or alcohol in the backyard?
Yes, sir. The second bar opened, and I got another glass of wine.
Did you get red or white?
I don't remember. I think it was white.
Do you remember in the front yard if you had red or white?
I think it was white.
In the backyard, how did you get that wine glass?
It was the same setup. I think by that time, though, they had more glasses set out than they did at the front. Like the front, they were filling the glasses still, but I'm pretty sure by the backyard there were more filled. But there were still two bartenders like filling glasses, from what I remember.
So the same kind of description as you gave earlier, where there would be some glasses of wine out on the table, and the bartender's pouring some while the wine is progressing.
Yes, sir.
And do you recall that time, how exactly you got your glass of wine?
I don't remember.
And how about the others? Were JT and Anna and Thomas still drinking back there?
Yes, sir.
in the
We
backyard?
were still drinking.
How about Josh? Do you remember if he had anything in the backyard?
I don't remember. I remember that I'm pretty sure he was one of the people that got food, so it was the first time that we weren't like table and stay together.
The wine glasses, when you were out at the table, were they out kind of in the open, right on top of the table?
They were on the table. Yes, sir.
Natalie, at any point during the night, did you, we'll talk about your basement experience here in a moment, but at any point during the night, were you going anywhere else to drink, upstairs, in a basement, around the corner, anything like that?
No, sir.
And how many glasses did you have outside in the backyard?
Probably one, just one, because I noticed that I felt sick pretty quickly compared to other people.
Walk us through that. What happened when you realized
okay.
that you got sick? Why'd you go down to the basement?
I went down in the basement. Like I said, I didn't really want to see any parents or like see my old teachers or anything like that. And I didn't know how everyone else was feeling, so I didn't know like in relation to other people how drunk I was. So I just went down to the basement to the bottom of the stairs and kind of like sat down up against the wall, and I felt sick.
Did anyone go down to the basement with you at that time now?
Not at that time. I remember I was looking through my messages the next day, and I saw Thomas had texted me like we are on the swing or something like that. I think there was like some swing with lights in the backyard, kind of off to the side, and he asked where I was, or he said come to the swing, and I just responded I can't, and then I think that's what prompted him to come down and check on me.
How long were you down in the basement by yourself before anyone came down?
I don't remember. Probably, I want to say like I went down around 9:45 or 10, and so it probably was like I was probably on my own for 10 minutes. I lost track of time though because I was kind of in and out.
And Natalie, did you get sick down in the basement?
Yes, sir.
Was Thomas the first person that got to you in the basement?
I specifically remember Mrs. Matthews helping me because I called my brother first to come pick me up because I was really sick, but he didn't pick up, so then I called my dad, and I was on the phone with him to come pick me up when Mrs. Matthews came down with a towel, and she was helping me, and I remember like not knowing the specific address, and so she gave me the address while I was on my phone with my dad so that he could come immediately and pick me up.
And Natalie, I think you said earlier this was the first time you had any interaction with Mrs. Matthews that night other than your first greeting.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anyone else come down in the basement and help take care of you?
Alex, Thomas's sister, and Thomas came down and helped me.
And how many times did you get sick down there?
I only remember like at the bottom of the stairs, but they took me to the bathroom to help me, and they were with me the rest of, it was like 15 minutes it took for my dad to come, so they were with me that entire time.
What time did your dad get there?
I think like 10:25.
At some point, did you let Sergeant Hula know during the investigation of when exactly your father would have gotten there?
Because he called me to say that he had arrived, so I had it in my phone, like the time that I called him, which was like 10:17, and then the time he called me, which was like 10:27, 28, something like that. But it was like I had it in my phone, so I gave it to him.
So 10:17 is when you called your father.
I'm pretty sure that was the time. It was like that, or like 10:15, 10:12. I'm not sure.
And Mrs. Matthews helped you make that phone call.
I was already on the phone, but she definitely like helped me while I was on the phone and was helping me because I was out of it, basically.
And then your dad got there about roughly 10 minutes later.
Yes, sir.
How'd you get up to where your dad was?
I don't remember being able to like walk up the stairs, but I do know that Alex and Thomas and I think Mrs. Matthews, but I'm not sure, helped me to my car. And I remember Thomas talking to my dad and saying like, I'm so sorry, like I take full responsibility. I'm sorry that she got this sick. And my dad picked me up and took me home.
And you don't recall one way or another if Mrs. Matthews was with you when your dad got there?
I can't remember if she helped me up the stairs, but she was downstairs in the bathroom with me, like helping me while I was like waiting for him to get there, but I don't remember if she helped me up to the car. That's like when I really don't remember things very clearly.
Did you get any trouble with your parents when you got home, or?
They've always taught me to call them and that there won't be as big consequences if like I call them because that's what they want to like make sure I'm safe. So they were glad that I called and got home safely.
Natalie, obviously later in the night, JT passed away. How did you learn about that?
Anna had texted me late, I guess it was early in the morning, like 1 or 2, saying, like, are you home? I got a citation, my parents are mad, or something like that. And then she said something like, apparently JT didn't make it home last night, but it was like in a string of things, and I didn't notice it. I didn't really think much of it. I thought maybe he was like in the hospital sick, or he had spent the night at the Matthews. It didn't even occur to me that something bad had happened. And I remember texting Thomas in the morning, asking him for Alex's number so I could thank her for taking care of me. And so I texted her, and she said, no problem, like, I'm glad you're safe. And I went to work that day, and I didn't find out until my friend called me at like 1 p.m.
Natalie, while you were there in the Matthews home, you said you were drinking out in the open. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, sir.
Did Dr. Matthews or Mrs. Matthews ever try to stop you from drinking?
No, sir.
Ever? And did you drive over there, Natalie?
I did. I left my car there overnight.
Anyone ask you, or did the Matthews ever come up and ask you for your keys or anything like that?
No, sir.
Or tell you to stay the night there?
No, sir, because, yeah, no, sir.
May I approach the witness, Runner?
You may.
Commissioner, publish a few of these photographs to the members of the jury again. It'll be State's Exhibit number 19. $69.80. Natalie, this has previously been introduced to State's Exhibit number 19. Take a look at that photograph, and it's also on the projector, but do you recognize what that photograph depicts?
Yes, sir. It's the front yard. It was the first reception.
And are you in that picture, Natalie?
Yes, sir.
Kind of, if I may, laser pointer. Tell me if I get you wrong, but is that you kind of in the background there?
Yes, sir.
Now, Natalie, you testified earlier that you were drinking and the others were drinking there at that table. Do you see that depicted there in the picture?
Yes, sir.
What do you see here on the top of the table?
We had wine glasses that we had gotten.
And at any point during this time period, Natalie, did you notice Dr. Matthews in the back?
I did not, but I had never met him before, so if I'd seen him, I wouldn't have known it was him.
So you didn't know Dr. Matthews at all?
No, sir, I did not know him.
Let's go to State's Exhibit number 21, which is our 7007. I'm gonna hand you the actual photograph, Natalie, because it's kind of you're a little bit blurry in it. But do you see yourself, or at least a part of you, in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna use the laser pointer. Tell me if I'm wrong, but is that where you were standing there at the outdoor cocktail table?
Yes, sir.
And again, Natalie, kind of what was going on while y'all were standing at this table?
We had been, I think we had, this was the backyard, so we had gotten another round of like wine glasses, and I think there was some food at the table too that we had gotten.
You described that the bar was in the backyard earlier.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to use the laser pointer and tell me if I'm incorrect, but was the bar over here in this general area?
I couldn't tell you from like how I remember it from this picture or in relation.
Sure. How far away, do you recall how far away the bar was from you?
I remember it was close, but not, I can't remember.
And you testified earlier that where you were standing at this table was kind of a high traffic area where people went in and out of the house a lot. And is that the way that folks would go into the house if they need to go into the kitchen, restroom, anything like that?
Objection
Yes.
to deleting, Your Honor.
Overruled.
You can answer.
Yes, sir.
So that was the walkway.
Yes, sir.
And finally, State's Exhibit number 26, which is 7262. You can have the actual photograph. What do you see there, Natalie?
We are in the right part of the picture, standing at that table, and this was probably like right before I left to go to the basement because it was still like families dancing.
Is this? I've got the red dot on you, Natalie. Is that where you were standing?
Yes, sir. And you can kind of see the swing in this picture, but not. It's like really far in the distance in that one.
The swing that Thomas texted you about?
Yes, sir.
I'll hand you the laser pointer, and if you can point out to the members of the jury where it's just that little button there on the side.
Like that little white thing. You can see it in this picture better, but yeah.
And Natalie, earlier you testified about Thomas's sister Alex. Can you see her in that photograph?
She's sitting down in the far right corner.
Right here on the bottom right hand corner as you described?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's Alex, and that's the young lady that helped you later in the night.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This gentleman standing beside her, do you know who that is?
No, sir. Well, now
far-
I do, but
I'm sorry?
Now I know who it is, but I didn't at the time.
Well, since you've
Oh.
looked at these photographs, do you know who that is?
It would be Dr. Matthews now from what Anna was saying, but I didn't know it at the time who it was.
The distance between yourself and where Alex is and Dr. Matthews, how far was that, Natalie?
Probably no more than like 15 feet, I'd say, maybe 15 feet.
Okay. Using kind of my prosecutor's table there, and you can see it from the photograph as well. But using the prosecutor's table is that about the same distance that Dr. Matthews was away from you?
I would say so. I couldn't really remember clearly.
Sure. But this is a fair and accurate depiction of how far.
Okay, yeah.
Is that a true statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And while you're there at the table, are you, and it looks like Anna and Josh, do you have the wine glasses in front of you then and consuming the alcohol then?
We do, yes.
Thank you, Natalie. If I may have just a moment, John. Natalie, when Sergeant Hoolan came and spoke with you originally, did you tell him this whole story as you told it to the members of the jury here today?
Yes, sir.
The first time around?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Natalie. I don't have any further questions at this point.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Freeman. Would you prefer me to call you Natalie or Ms. Freeman?
Natalie's fine.
Okay, thank you. Natalie, you talked to the police just the one time, Sergeant Hoolan, just one time, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you never got charged with any kind of criminal offense arising out of the night of the Matthews wedding?
No, sir.
And in fact, Sergeant Hoolan told you that he wasn't worried about your underage drinking. He wanted to find out why JT left.
Yeah, that was how he first started the conversation.
And if I understand your testimony correctly today, you had one glass of wine at the front of the house on the front porch, and then one on the back patio.
Yes, sir.
And that was it.
Yes, sir.
And then do you know if you finished the second one?
I remember I didn't because I felt really sick, and so
you
that's
just-
when I left.
You stopped drinking it altogether.
Yeah, I just left.
And you testified as well as that you had never met Dr. Matthews before.
No, sir. I never met him.
Never spoken to him before.
No, sir.
And your only interaction with Ms. Matthews was early on in the evening first, talking about the jam.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then later, you remember her helping you with a towel, and then you were calling your father, and she gave the address so he could come pick you up.
Yes, sir.
And did she seem concerned about you during that period of time?
Yes, sir.
Were you involved in the text messaging or instant messaging that afternoon about the arrangements? Were you texting back and forth with Thomas and JT and Anna?
I was only texting Thomas.
Just Thomas?
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you express to Thomas a desire to get drunk or just to drink?
I don't think that came up as like a question. It was more just the fact that there was going to be drinking.
That you wanted to drink?
Yes, sir.
And you understood that this was a wedding of someone you didn't know, right?
Yes, sir.
And did you know that there were going to be bartenders there?
No, sir. I think he did say the words open bar, but didn't say bartenders.
And of course, you never asked for or received permission from Dr. and Ms. Matthews to drink at the reception or at the wedding at all, did you?
No, sir.
And you described the bartenders pouring wine and handing wine to people, and then sometimes people took a glass off the table. None of the bartenders ever said anything to you those 2 times you got glasses of wine.
They never said anything to us. Like, they never asked for IDs or asked us if we were old enough to drink.
Were you nervous when you approached the bar at all?
No, sir.
You just expected they would give it to you?
Yes, sir.
You indicated, was there any other adult there that you knew?
Besides the teacher, no.
And the time you interacted with the teacher, and this is Mr. Riggenbach, is that right?
Yes, sir.
That was close to your car, which it was not on the Matthews property, correct?
It was right on the corner. I'm not sure what it was like on the corner of Vance and some other street, maybe like Harvey, or I'm not sure, but it was at the far edge of their house, and we talked to the teacher on the brick pathway that was straight out from their front door going down to the street.
And you spent a pretty significant period of time down there, right?
Yes, sir.
Was it 15 minutes or so?
It felt like 15 minutes, yeah.
And at that point, JT had gone with you, and you didn't have any glasses or alcoholic beverages with you, right?
We weren't holding anything, no, sir.
And did you kind of make it a point that if you weren't taking a sip of your wine, you were leaving it on the table, correct?
Yes, sir.
You weren't walking around the party with it?
No, we weren't walking around with glasses in our hands.
And as far as your group pretty much stayed together when you were at the front of the house, on the front porch, and then at the back of the house at that standing table, the tall table.
Yes, sir.
And when you were standing there, when the group was there, you all would stand around the table sort of facing each other. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever let your parents know that you planned on staying there that night?
I didn't. No, sir.
And you never had a conversation about that with Chip or Kim Matthews, did you?
No, sir.
Did Sergeant Hull or anybody from the Raleigh Police ask you for your phone at any point to look at it for potential evidence?
No, sir.
And you mentioned something about you kept the empty bottle of Jack Daniels, is that right?
Yes, sir. It was in my car.
And were you keeping it why were you keeping it?
I didn't have a place to get rid of it yet, and then I just kept it in my car. I didn't take it out of my car. I just kind of forgot it was in there.
And at some point, you gave it to someone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall who you gave it to?
Yes, I don't mean to call anyone out, but I'm pretty sure it was someone back there.
Someone in the audience?
Yeah, I can't remember their names. I'm sorry, but I recognize their faces.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, so.
Well, I'd ask her, but she'd be allowed to identify you.
Point out,
Okay.
describe and point out the person you say you gave the bottle to.
It was, yes, you. Sorry.
A person on the second row raised his hand.
Okay. But you don't know his name?
No, sir. I don't remember his name.
Okay. And did you give it to him at a law office?
Yes, sir. We met at a law office, and I said I had it, and then we arranged to give it to him later.
Okay. And so you never gave that bottle to the police?
No, sir.
And did you have reason to believe, or did you know that the person you were giving the bottle to was a lawyer or a paralegal for the Taylors?
Yes, sir. A paralegal for the Taylors.
Now, at some point, did you go see the Taylors to tell them you were thinking about them and JT?
Yes, sir. I went with Thomas. Thomas said he would take me because I didn't know the Taylors before the wedding, so I didn't feel I didn't know them well enough to go on my own, and so Thomas said he would go with me.
And was that in July, or do you know when it was?
It was in July.
And when you got there, did you talk to the Taylors?
Yes, sir.
And did you talk to them about the night that everything happened, at the wedding night?
Yes, sir.
And was there anybody else there?
There was a lawyer and like a paralegal, something like that. Yes, sir.
And did those folks speak to Thomas?
Yes, sir. They spoke to Thomas while we were in the living room.
Okay. And do you know? Could you hear what they were talking about? What was going on?
It was mostly about timing of like what happened when JT might have left. When did Thomas find out? Stuff like that.
And when you left, did you and Thomas leave together?
Yes, sir.
Was he shaken up after that?
Yes, sir. He was.
Now, you indicated that you were with Josh McCoy, was part of the group, right?
Yes, sir.
And you knew Josh?
Sort of.
Okay. And he was with you at the Vaughn's house, correct? At least for part of the time.
Yeah, that was where he met us.
And he didn't have anything to drink there, or he had just a sip?
Yes, sir.
And do you ever indicate why that was?
He had to drive home.
And later, he was at the front of the house and the back of the house with you at the Matthews home. Did he drink there at all?
I think he might have had a glass of wine or something, but I mean, he was like eating dinner while he was drinking, and he definitely wasn't like there to. He wasn't there just to drink, you know.
You had two glasses of wine while you were drinking? Were you intentionally trying to be sly about it? Were you trying to keep it from parents?
I don't think I ever I never was like open about it, but I don't know. For some reason I thought since it was a wedding, like people wouldn't question that we were underage drinking. I didn't think the bartenders would think twice about serving us. So I wasn't necessarily trying to be sly, but I knew like don't show it off, don't like carry the glasses around because we are 18 or 17. I was 17.
So you were conscious of it?
I was conscious of it, yes, sir.
But none of the bartenders ever said anything to you at any point during the night, correct?
No, sir, and they didn't look at us differently. They were just serving and filling glasses.
But no other adult came up to you with concerns either, right?
No, sir.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Briefly, Your Honor, Natalie, Mr. Miles used the word sly about how y'all were drinking that night, but you had wine glasses out on the table in front of you.
Yes, sir.
You were drinking out of these wine glasses in front of everybody else.
Yes, sir.
You weren't going anywhere else in the house to consume this alcohol, were you?
No, sir.
It was out in front of God and everybody.
Yes, sir.
Objection, ask and answer.
Abstain.
No further questions.
Recross.
No, thank you.
You may step down. Would you rather take a 15-minute recess now, call your next witness, and go about 15 minutes?
I think we can go about 15 minutes.
All right. Please call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time the state will call Mr. Josh McCoy to the stand.
Sir, if you would, please place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Josh, good afternoon to you, sir. Can you please state your name for the record?
Joseph Boney McCoy.
And do you go by nickname?
Josh.
You go by Josh, okay. Make sure you keep your voice up, Josh, and speak to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Josh, what's your date of birth, sir?
June 23rd, 1995.
So going back to June 24th of 2014, how old were you, sir?
19.
And Josh, where did you go to school?
Ravenscroft.
And how do you know the other teenagers involved in this case?
Through Ravenscroft mostly.
Tell me about, we'll start with Thomas Matthews. How do you know him?
We've both gone to Ravenscroft since we were in preschool. We might have met the Matthews before that. We've been really close friends and family friends since then.
Since you were in preschool?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
pretty
sir.
much lifelong friends with the Matthews.
Yes, sir.
How about J.T. Taylor?
Met him first when he came into a kind of our core group of friends in 7th grade, I think it was said. He just kind of fit in with the rest of our friends, so we kind of accepted him into our group and started hanging out as a group.
Anna Ergish, how do you know her?
Same kind of thing. In junior year, she transferred to Ravenscroft, and she had some mutual friends already in our friend group, so same kind of thing. We just started hanging out with her.
And then Natalie Freeman, did you know her prior
Just
to June 28th?
knew a name through social media and kind of stuff, so seeing her name around, never contacted, had conversations with her or anything before then.
Josh, it sounds like you and Thomas have been friends, as you said, been friends for quite some time. How many times would you say you've been over to the Matthews house?
A lot. Yeah.
Have you ever consumed alcohol over at the Matthews house?
Possibly. I can't remember. Maybe if we did, it was probably freshman or sophomore year of high school.
And to your knowledge, were the Matthew parents aware of you consuming alcohol over there at their house?
No.
And who did you consume that alcohol with?
Thomas?
Going to June 24th of 2014, were you invited to the wedding?
The 28th?
28th, excuse me.
Thomas texted me in the afternoon sometime. I think I had work until 5 or so. After that, I just kind of got ready and headed over around 7:10ish.
Josh, were you expecting to drink when you got over to the Matthews wedding?
No, we hadn't talked about anything like that.
You and
That I
Thomas.
remember. No.
You and Thomas did not.
No.
Were you, if the opportunity provided itself to you to drink that night, were you going to drink?
No.
Why not?
I knew I had to drive home, and I didn't want to go home too late because I had church the next morning, and just didn't really plan on that. That wasn't kind of my goal for going over there. It was more to support because I had met Nicole many times before, so I was there for the family and also to hang out with friends, so I wouldn't see after that. So
You were actually kind of different from the other teenagers we've talked to. You were actually going there as part of the wedding or knowing the bride and groom.
more so.
Where did you first meet up with the other friends?
The neighbor, the Vaughn's house.
What did you see when you got there, Josh?
Sitting on kind of the outdoor brick patio, sitting with a bottle of liquor,
Did you see what kind of liquor it was?
Jack Daniels.
And who all was there at that point?
Anna, Thomas, Natalie, JT,
And what were they doing with the bottle of liquor?
passing it around.
Could you tell who was drinking the most? What order they were going in? Anything like that?
There wasn't really an order to it, but Thomas and John were probably taking more of it than they were.
They were taking more than the girls.
Yep.
At that point, Josh, when you arrived, how would you describe the demeanor of the four friends?
Excited. I know JT had never been to a wedding before. Thomas was really excited for his sister getting married. And then I didn't really talk to Natalie too much, but she was excited. Like she said, she had never been to a wedding before. So everyone was pretty excited and happy about everything that was happening.
Did they appear to be impaired at that point, Josh?
No.
While you were over there on the patio, did you yourself consume any of the Jack Daniels?
I think I had a taste just because I had never seen that flavor before or whatever it was. But it wasn't like a shot or anything.
Just a taste and kept on passing.
Yep.
How long would you say you and the other friends were over there?
Probably about 20-25 minutes.
Were y'all late to the ceremony or anything like that? Have to go running in?
No, they still had greeters at the front door when we walked up.
When you arrived at the ceremony and the ceremony was going on, did you notice anything unusual about your friends at that point?
No,
After the ceremony, where did you go?
the front patio, and the bar.
Tell us about that. How'd you go? Did you go through the bar yourself?
Yes.
What happened?
Everyone just kind of served their drinks, like they said. It was they were really rushed just because so many people had moved from the back to the front, and they were pouring and handing and setting them down on the table, and everyone just kind of grabbed or got handed to them whatever they wanted.
So when you went through the line, there were glasses of wine that were out open on the table.
Yep, if my memory serves.
And did you get a glass at that point, Josh?
Yes.
Do you remember how you got your glass?
No.
How about the other four friends? Do you remember how they got?
I have no idea.
And I said a glass. What was in the glass?
Wine.
All right, once you got your glass of wine, where did you go?
To a little high standing table that was kind of toward the front door of their house, and we just kind of hung out there.
How many glasses of wine did you have, Josh, there at the front table?
I just grabbed that one. I don't even think I finished it. I had like one or two maybe sips.
You recall if it was red or white wine?
I think red.
How about the other friends? How many glasses did they have there?
1, 2, maybe, I can't remember.
At any point while you were on the front patio, Josh, was there any attempt to kind of hide these glasses from adults, the Matthews, anybody like that?
We were just kind of off by ourselves, kind of stuck to ourselves, so no, I guess.
Did you see Dr. Matthews or Mrs. Matthews there on the front patio while you were present outside?
No.
You did not see that?
No.
What happened at that point?
Well, I talked to a teacher at Ravenscroft, Scott Ringenbach, Mr. R. I talked to him for a while about various things, and then kind of it came time to go back toward the back for the reception and food, I guess. And so we kind of meandered back there with everybody else.
And where were you in the back part?
At that high standing bar table type thing.
Did you or your friends get wine back there?
They all did. I did not.
You did not?
Not that I remember.
Do you remember going to the bar or seeing the bar?
No.
Do you know how the wine was being presented or served at that point?
I would assume the same way as it was in the front.
But you didn't see yourself?
No.
At some point while you're in the back, Josh, do you notice your friends change in demeanor, change in how they're acting?
A little bit. I think a glass was knocked over on our little high table. I can't remember who knocked it over, but I guess I was kind of like, okay, like they're kind of drunk.
Do you remember which friend it was that did that?
No, I think Anna or JT, just because I was talking to them more than Thomas and Natalie.
Back in the back, Josh, did you or your friends that you saw have any interaction with Dr. Matthews or Mrs. Matthews?
No. I think I saw Dr. Matthews and just said, hey, congratulations. But I think I was running inside to the bathroom when I saw that, so I think I was in the house near the kitchen.
So he knew you were there at that
Yes.
point?
Yep.
Do you recall any conversation with him there at the high top table?
No.
And were you present earlier when the larger photograph was shown with him seated with his daughter kind of on the walkway there?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing him there?
Mm-mm.
Were you in that photograph
Yes.
and you recognized Dr. Matthews from that photograph?
Yes.
And at some point, Josh, did you notice that some of your other friends were getting highly intoxicated and impaired?
Yes.
All right, describe that for us.
Like I said, with that glass kind of tipping over, just other things, kind of them like being really happy. I remember I took those pictures of Anna and John, and they were just kind of really funny. John was goofing around and whatnot, but nothing like they weren't falling over themselves or anything. So
Anna testified that at some point she went upstairs with Thomas. Were you present when that occurred?
I can't remember. I remember I got food once or twice. It was really good food, so I definitely took advantage of that. And so they might have slipped up there when I was gone, but I don't remember standing there like by myself wondering where they went.
And Natalie just testified a few moments ago that she left and went down into the basement. Do you recall that happening?
I think that was right about the time I left. I don't remember it distinctly, no.
How about JT and Thomas? What are they doing? What are they doing during this time period?
Hanging out, talking to aunts and uncles. Thomas had a lot of family there, so he was talking with some of them. Some of them came from Greece, overseas, so he hadn't seen them in a while. John might have been talking to some other people. I can't remember exactly.
And at any point during that night, Josh, did the Matthews come to that table where you and your friends were and say, hey, you need to put the wine glasses away, stop drinking, anything like that?
No.
Come and take anybody's car keys?
No.
Say, hey, you need to go into a separate room?
No.
Your Honor, at this time I would briefly ask to publish State's Exhibit number 26 and number 19.
You may do so.
State's Exhibit 19 is 6980. Josh, do you see yourself there in that photograph?
Yes.
Is that, which individual are you?
I am on the far right-hand side with my shoulder up against the house.
And you're wearing a bow tie as well,
Yes.
a little bit taller than JT and Thomas.
Yes.
And who are the two girls?
Natalie and Anna. Anna's on the left, Natalie's in the middle.
That photograph, what do you see there on the table in front of everyone?
Empty glasses and a flower, it looks like.
Does one of the glasses have some liquid in it in front of you, it looks like?
Yes, I can't quite make that out, but
The red wine glass.
yeah, okay. Yep.
And State's Exhibit number 26, which is our 7262. That's the scene we've seen from the backyard and kind of direct your attention. Is that you, Josh?
Yes.
Okay, and Anna and Natalie.
Yes.
And then I don't know if you can see, but this young lady down in the bottom right-hand corner, do you know who that is?
I can't quite make out that.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Just kind of give you the actual photograph. Can you tell who that is?
Oh, yes, that's Alex.
And that's Thomas' sister.
Yes.
And then the gentleman standing beside her, can you make out who that is?
Looks like Dr. Matthews.
And again, Josh, this is kind of where you and your friends were hanging out during the course of the outside reception.
Yes.
Yeah, just one moment, Joe.
You may.
Do you recall what time it was that you left, Josh?
I think it was in between 9:30 and 10. I couldn't give you a more exact range than that.
And out of your friends there, who seemed the most intoxicated or drunk?
Probably Anna or John.
Thank you, Josh. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Before cross-examination, we'll take our afternoon recess.
Thank you.
We'll take a recess for 15 minutes until 4 o'clock. Members of the jury, please remember to follow my instructions. Everyone else remain in place. Return ready to come in at 4 o'clock.